Okay, so this morning I am so excited. We are starting a brand new Sunday message series called Spiritual Road Rules. And over the next few weeks, what we're going to do is take a deep dive into 3 tips that are going to help make sure that you arrive safe and sound at your chosen destination. Now, of course, the deeper meaning of this series is really all about how you can apply these rules to your daily life and, more importantly, to your spiritual life. Because, if you can't apply these today to your practice, to your spiritual practice, what's the point? Right? What's the point? And so today we are going to begin by taking a look at the importance of choosing your destination. And then next week, we're going to look at how to lighten your load. And then in the third week, we're going to round it all out by exploring what it means to pay attention to the signs. Pay attention to the signs. Now, let's just jump right in and get started. So there's a popular song. Now, I'm not going to try to sing it because I'm only on key occasionally, but there's a popular song. You're probably familiar with it. And the lyrics say, "Life is a highway and I want to ride it all night long." And, that sounds like a lot of fun, right? Doesn't it? But here's the thing. Whether you took driver's ed or not, you might be surprised to know that so many of the meaningful lessons in life are completely and totally relatable to the time that you have spent behind the wheel. So, for instance, did you know that direction determines destination? Now, another way that I've heard this said is direction, not intention, determines your destination. Now, let me just say that again. Direction, not intention, determines your destination. Now, I know that this seems simple enough, so please hear me when I say that even though we know this, quite often there is a disconnect between where we say we want to go, that chosen destination. So there's a disconnect between where we say we want to go and then the actual path that we choose. Now, I know we have all been there, right? Some of us, you might be there right now. And so my question for you is this: are you conscious? Are you aware of the direction that you're heading in? Because whether you're a person of faith or not, one of the things I think that most of us have in common is that we actually want to arrive safe and sound in the future. Yes? And yet, let me just tell you this. You can drive south with the intention of going to Canada, but you are not going to arrive in Canada by driving south. Am I right, Greg and Bonnie? Are you still with us? You're not going to arrive in Canada by driving south. You can set your intention, right? You can intend it as much as you want, but at least from this perspective, it's irrelevant, right? You can intend all you want, you can pray all you want, you can trust God, in the process. But if you're driving south, you're going to end up in Mexico or maybe even the Gulf of Mexico, depending on where you actually started, right? Now, are you with me? Is this making sense? So direction, not intention, determines your destination. Now, this reminds me of a story about a teacher who asked a little boy in her class to name the directions that you find on a compass. How many directions are there on a compass? And the little boy says 5. And she was like, "Really? Are there 5?" And he says, "Yes, north, south, east, west, and where I am. Now, I just want to hit the pause button here for a minute to say that it is also true, of course, wherever you go, there you are. And wherever you are, God is. But this doesn't mean that you have an excuse to not use a compass or a roadmap. Can I get an amen to that? Right? Use your compass, use your roadmap. In other words, choosing your destination doesn't mean that you're not going to have course corrections, because you absolutely will, and rightly so. So just think about the navigation system in your car, right? Or think about why it's said that a rocket going to the moon spends a significant amount of time just, course correcting. But the difference is that your GPS and a rocket, right? They actually have an endpoint plugged in. They know where they're going. They have the endpoint. And so it is with us. And so it is with you. Now, in your spiritual practice, you want to make sure to set your course based on your inner guidance system. You want to make sure that you are using your inner compass, right? And you want to choose your inner destination. This is the part that relates to your spiritual practice here. Why? Because direction, not intention, designates your destination. By the way, and this is really an important part of the lesson. So I want to make sure that you lean into this and really please hear me. Just because we're talking about your inner destination doesn't mean that it's all about you. It doesn't mean that it's all about you, because we are always co-creating our reality. Always. We are always co-creating our reality together. Now, I know sometimes we wish that wasn't the case, but it is. And what I mean by this is that every thought that you have, every word that you speak, every act that you do has a consequence in the world around you and the world that we are co-creating together. And so when you are co-creating, when you're choosing your response to the events in your life, again, every thought, every word, every act is your choice. And I would even add in particularly your posts in social media, right? Be it Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. You are creating not just within yourself, but with others as well. You are an actor in the entire theater of life. Now, some would say in the web of life. And this is how we co-create together. And so I want to share a story with you, and it's a fantastic example of how all of this works together. And it's a true story that I heard just recently from Carolyn Mays. Now, this story involves a man, a fairly young man, who had a near-death experience. Now, I don't know about you, but I find near-death experiences absolutely fascinating. And so at the time of this story, this man had a near-death experience. And what happened is he owned a construction company, and let me tell you, he was living the high life. Everything was going so fantastic for him. He had great physical health. He was engaged to be married. He was making tons of money. And then one day, he and his crew were working on a really big renovation project, and he fell and he got hurt. Now, it wasn't life-threatening, but it did require him to have a minor outpatient surgery. And so the day of this surgery, his mother, who was also a nurse, picked him up from the hospital. And on their way home, she decided to stop at a convenience store. And so while she was in the store, he was sitting in the car. And as he was sitting in the car, he became aware of this intense tightness in his chest, and that his arm started to tingle. And, this was so severe, he just, oh my God, like this is very serious. And he knew that he was having a heart attack. And so he goes into the store to ask his mother to call 911. And that's when he dropped right there on the floor in the middle of the 7-Eleven. And of course, because his mother was a nurse, she did everything that she could while they were awaiting for an ambulance to arrive. But during this time, he had a near-death experience, and 2 stories from his life were shown to him. Now, the first story went back to when he was a young boy, when he was like maybe 6, 7 years old. And he had gone into a shop and he stole something. He stole like a little tchotchke item that was like maybe worth 50 cents. And, he didn't think anything about it. He walked out of the store. He never thought about it again, ever. So he put this item in his pocket, he stole it, he walked out, and he never looked back. But what he didn't know, and what this experience showed him, were the consequences of this act and the consequences that it co-created. And so what he saw was from the perspective of the owner. And the owner actually witnessed him steal this item that day. And it just broke his heart. It just broke his heart. And it was the straw that broke the camel's back, because for years, over and over again, he had seen children come in and do this. And he said, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with these kids. I'm going to shut this store down. And that's what he did. He closed his business because it just broke his heart. Now, the second story that he was shown was from a time when he was a teenager. He was like maybe 13 or 14 years old at the time. And he helped this complete stranger with his groceries, and he helped this man cross the street. And again, like, he never thought about this teeny tiny little, act. And he had no idea how this co-created a reality with this individual. And for this man, this stranger that he helped, it touched him so deeply, and it caused him to be so incredibly grateful that when he went home that day, he was overwhelmed with this gratitude, and he actually wept. But this opened his heart to humanity in such a new way that it actually helped him avoid having a heart attack. And he lived for many, many years after this. He had a very long life. And so these 2 stories that were shown to him were so shocking because, for the first time, he saw how his choices they co-created reality, not just for himself, but for others as well. And how, either taking advantage of someone or actually serving someone is how we co-create reality. And he just never thought about these things before. But this near-death experience shocked him so much that he actually went on to become a minister. Now, do not worry, you do not have to become a minister. That's not why I shared this story with you, but I do want you to really start to understand, to let the significance of this sink in, that your life is your ministry. You know, your life, what you choose to co-create, your thoughts, your words, your deeds, is a ministry. And so it's not just about you, boo, right? It's how you create, and co-create your reality. It's how you set your course based on your inner guidance system, how you set your sail based on your inner compass, and it's how you choose your inner destination. And so just think about this. Who's in charge of your power? Who's in charge of your power? You are. You are the one and only in charge of your power, how you respond in life, what you say, what you do, what you think. Remember, it's just a thought, and a thought can be changed, right? And so the way that you empower yourself is by becoming more and more aware of the reality that you are co-creating, by what you're, not just what you are creating, but what you are co-creating. Now, I have to tell you that I can't think of a better, there's so many. I know we're, still in the midst of a pandemic, right? You want to talk about co-creating. But I can't think of a better example than a positive example of what's happening in the world of sports right now. Just look at the bravery and the courage of two superstar athletes, Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles. Now, these two Black women, well, actually, Naomi is Black and Asian, but these two women have done the seemingly unthinkable thing to do recently, and they've done it in the face of cruel and ridiculous criticism, right? By proving that the most superhuman thing that you can do, and not only for yourself, but for others as well, is to put your mental health first. Now, Naomi, of course, is a tennis prodigy, and she led the way over the last couple of months by pulling out of the French Open and then Wimbledon to focus on her mental well-being. And then, of course, this last week, the greatest gymnast of all time, Simone Biles, withdrew from the team competition as well as the individual all-around at the Tokyo Olympics. And she stated very clearly that her decision to do this was to put her mental health first. Now, this is what choosing your inner destination looks like, because direction, not intention, is what determines your destination. And so these women, by doing this, have absolutely solidified their place in history by being not only great role models, which they always are, but enlightened leaders. And so if you are facing some tough times right now, and we're all going through something, right? I hope that you will take this with you. I hope that you will remember this, that instead of seeing your situation as a problem, you can pivot and you can think of it as a direction that simply needs to be changed. Let me just say that again. Instead of seeing your current situation as a problem, think of it as a direction that can be changed. So I want to leave you with this. Now, if you grew up in church, and even if you didn't, you might be familiar with the story from the Gospel of Matthew where, we are told that a wise man will build his house on what? On solid rock, right? But a foolish man builds his house on sand. Now, as a reminder, building your house on rock doesn't mean that the rains and the floods and the winds aren't going to come visit you, because there are going to be different seasons in your life where that very likely will happen. It just means that you'll be better prepared for it. And so if you feel like your house literally or metaphysically is on sinking sand, that's okay. That's the awareness that you want to have. But now is the time to change your direction, right? Now is the time, because direction determines destination. And so your heart work this week is to expand your spiritual practice, because remember, again, if you can't apply it, what good is it, right? But you can. And I know that you will. So your heart work this week is for you to think about where in your life do you need to change direction? And what steps do you have to take to do that? In other words, ask yourself this: what steps do I need to take to change direction for the better? For the better. And so next week, we'll leave it there for today. But next week, we're going to take a look at how to lighten your load along the way so that you're not getting weighed down while you're changing direction. And so ends our message for today. Thank you. And God bless you. Thank you.